Hey guys, Ryan Earnhardt here from CreativeSoundLab.tv. I want to talk to you about getting the most possible benefit out of all the gear in your studio. I mean, gear costs money. How can we get the most out of everything that we own? Okay, so first thing's kind of obvious, but it's organization. You know, if I ask you, hey, where is a mic stand adapter from metric to the US system, you should be able to know exactly where you keep your adapters. If you don't know where stuff is, I mean, you might as well just not even have this stuff, right? You know, recently I thought that I was out of printer ink. I went to the store, I bought some more, but then I found out that, hey, I actually have like 2 cartridges of ink. Well, because I wasn't organized, it was literally the same thing as not having that ink for my printer. Number 2 is learning to commit to sounds. Now, this can probably be applied to multiple different areas of the studio. The first one off the top of my head is with like outboard gear. Okay, it's not like plugins. Plugins lets you, record dry sounds and then get a pretty good sound after the fact. The thing is that the reason why I have outboard compressors is because they actually get the job done a lot easier and quicker, and it usually gets a better result. I have gear because it gets me the tone. Why not commit to that tone? So, in recording, we could 2x, maybe even 3x the amount of gear that we have by processing it at different points in the production. So on the way in, go ahead and commit to certain sounds, certain compression. Maybe we know that we want the bass compressed, we want the kick drum compressed a certain way with the 160, so we go ahead and we commit to sounds, right? Then during mixing, we can run different tracks through the same gear, and then maybe through the summing process, if you do any sort of summing, then engineers are doing additional processing at kind of a higher level, okay? Drum bus, stereo bus compression. So it happens in layers, and we're multiplying the gear that we have. Number 3 is really about time shifting. So what I mean by that is that we have multiple tracks. You know, we have, say, 16 tracks of audio that make up one song, one mix. But we don't have to always record all 16 tracks live with a band in the studio. We can multi-track, right? We can say, okay, let's use the good microphone over and over again and slowly build a song track by track. Maybe for the drums, we go to a mono overhead if we have a really good vocal mic. We use that as our overhead. Then we can use it for acoustic guitar, vocal, background vocals. We can just use it over and over and get hopefully a little bit bump in the production value because we're using a very high quality microphone with a larger portion of that track. If we recorded live, man, we would have one instance of that mic, and then we'd have a bunch of 57s, 58s, dynamics, things like that. Second example of time shifting is to reamp. So if you don't have a particular amp, say if, man, your friend who's coming in next week's got a perfect AC30 you want to record with, but your session is this weekend, well, go ahead and grab the DIs and record with an amp that you have. Then at a later date, you can record with the amps that you want. Furthermore, if you have a great mic, then you could reuse that mic for the guitar amp and for vocal and for anything else. There's lots of really great ways you can spin this. You can use your room over and over again. Use the room on, the guitar amp. Use the room on, a vocal chamber, for example. Even though the vocal might have been recorded live, if there's no drum set playing in that room later on, you can turn it into a vocal chamber and reuse your room. So we're multiplying our room. We didn't have to have a separate vocal chamber that was in, down the hall from the studio. We can just move everybody out of the room, reuse that space. So part of what inspired this is my visit to Weathervane Music, where Brian's talking about reusing his best microphone, the U67, over and over again. Let's check it out.
One of the great things about reamping is that this is our nicest microphone. This is the best microphone we have. It's a vintage Neumann U67. It's like it's one of this studio's pride and joys. That frees up this mic to be used somewhere else during the basic tracking. That's another benefit of reamping.
So I'd love to know what you think of this. Obviously, the big studios, they have separate rooms for everything, so they can all record live. They have, multiple large diaphragms that cost a lot of money. But for the small studios, we have to use these techniques to get the absolute most out of our gear. I'd love to know what techniques you use to record. Do you record live at all? Do you typically like multi-track and reuse mics? Do you like to reamp? I'd love to hear from you the techniques you like to use in your own studio. Be talking to you soon.